Hello and welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. And on today's episode of the Prime, we're going to be breaking down the off seasons for the entire AFC East. I see all the logos on the screen right now. And as we mentioned about the NFC East yesterday, this is another division that a little bit underachieved, in my opinion. TJ, what do you think? I'm David Huffman, by the way. That's TJ Hopkins. Like, share, and subscribe. But this is another division, like we talked about yesterday with the NFC East. You could say that this division also underachieved in 2023, 2024?
Depends on who you ask. Seriously, when it comes to this, it depends on who you ask. I don't think expectations were necessarily high for the Patriots.
Okay, I'll give you that. But even the Jets, I mean, the Jets,
the
obviously
Jets
their season was derailed by an instant injury.
They get a caveat. They had Aaron Rodgers for one pass.
Four snaps. And, Miami, he kind of crawled into the playoffs. Everybody thought Buffalo was going to be this powerhouse. Yeah, they finished the season as the number 2 seed in the AFC. But for the most part, I mean, they had to win out in order to even make the playoffs. So it wasn't as successful a season. In my opinion, I think all four of these teams underachieved in 2023, 2024. And let's talk about their offseason a little bit. Let's first start with the New England Patriots. New head coach for the first time in 2.5 decades as Gerard Mayo replaces the legendary Bill Belichick. Obviously, their draft capital is right there. They have the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft. Their notable free agents are many. Trent Brown, Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, Mike Gesicki, the Green Goblin, Jalen Mills, Kyle Duggar, Josh Uche, Ezekiel Elliott, Kendrick Bourne. They have $70 million in cap space. Let's talk about how they should approach the draft, free agency, and their top 3 priorities when it comes to this offseason for the New England Patriots.
Okay. Well, obviously, you got to ask, is Mac Jones still the guy? Like, we are not that far removed from Mac Jones being All-Pro, Pro Bowl as a rookie. We're not that far removed from that. The organization failed Mac Jones just as much as the organization here failed Justin Fields. Worse.
I would say to even a greater extent, the Patriots did a disservice to Mac Jones. I mean, you will go into this season with Juju Smith-Schuster as your number 1 wide receiver. I mean, no disrespect to him, but he's never been a number 1 wide receiver anywhere he's been. And to have this expectation that he was going to carry this offense through the passing game is a little ridiculous to me.
You pretty much had to rebuild Mac Jones up because he spent the last year, he's 2 seasons ago now, 9 offensive guys calling plays, and it's just like, what do you want me to do with that? Like, Matt Patricia, Joe Judge calling plays? Seriously? Like, no quarterback would have succeeded with that. Now, then you go from that to Bill O'Brien, and now Bill O'Brien's gone. He's back in the college atmosphere. I don't even know who the OC is now.
Hold on a second. I don't know if they've named one actually, but I will find out.
They haven't. What's his name? Adam Schefter does a good job of updating the those moves, and they have not named an OC. They have not named a new GM. They have not. Those 2 positions are not filled yet for the New England Patriots. So yeah, now you got to ask, hey, is Mac Jones the guy? If he's not, who do you get? If you stand pat at 3, hypothetically, let's just say Chicago stays at 1. They're not drafting the QB, but they're staying at 1, right? Let's just say they make Marvin Harrison the number 1 overall pick. Who's at number 2? Washington. Do you pull a Chicago and trade up 1 for Caleb Williams?
No, I think you have to be comfortable with ending up with whoever you end up. I mean, if you really want your guy, the move is to move up to number 1 overall. If you absolutely have to have the guy that you want to pick, moving up to number 1 is the only option. And I think that they should push their chips to the table. I mean, this Mac Jones was a nice story his rookie season, but through 2 seasons, he's proven that even with not a lot around him, he's proven he's kind of not probably not the guy there. I would move on from Mac Jones. I would keep Bailey Zappi as your backup. I would try to see if you can get some value out of Mac Jones in the trade market, and I would trade up to number one with the Chicago Bears and take whoever you feel is the best quarterback in this draft, whether that be Drake May, whether it be Jaden Daniels, whether it be Caleb Williams. You have to put you in a situation because they've been looking for a quarterback since Tom Brady. And this is the situation that they're in now, where New England, this is the draft, this is the opportunity, because we don't know what the future is going to hold for New England Patriots. But if you get the franchise quarterback, you get that pick right, I don't think you should sit there and hope that the guy you want falls to you at 3. I think you got to take some initiative.
If your saving grace is your current head coach has been there, Gerard Mayo has been there, right? He knows Mac Jones. He knows him in and out. Maybe he feels like, hey, we didn't do Mac Jones a great, like we did Mac Jones a disservice. Like we didn't help him. Maybe they stay at 3 and be like, hey, Mac, we did you wrong. We're going to get you the right guy. We're going to get you the right people around you. And we're gonna try this here thing again. We're going to fix this. Because I believe Mac Jones can play this game at a high level. He's shown it. Like when he had the right type of OC and some kind of offensive weapons around them. Again, they went to the playoffs. They got their ass kicked, but they went. And he was named All-Pro, Pro Bowl, all that good stuff. All right? I think a bigger question here is, obviously, the retiring of Bill Belichick. You never want to be the guy to replace the guy. You always want to be the guy to replace the guy that replaced the guy. It's 2024, and we're still saying the first black this in some cases. So this is New England. This is the first black head coach in New England Patriot history. And we're not going to sit here and beat around the bush like, hey, this is Boston. They do not have a good history with minorities. You can't sugarcoat that. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
I
feel like Gerard Mayo, because of his legendary status as a player in New England, I think that he's going to be okay with that city.
I don't think so.
But I do think his job is monumentally more difficult. I'm like, yeah, maybe the race thing may play a little bit of a factor of if he struggles, but like it's ultimately like always going to come down to the fact that you're replacing Bill Belichick. It wouldn't have mattered what color his skin was or who he was as a human being.
My thing is how much of a leash or grace period does he get? You get what I'm saying? Like we've seen.
Sure, but I think the fact that New England, like the reason that they hired him is because they didn't want to lose him, and I think if you were just gonna pull the trigger, give him one season with very little leeway,
lose him where though? To who? Like we didn't really.
Well, I mean, because of the structuring of his contract, the way it was structured, if they didn't promote him to the head coach, his contract became void. Like the way his extension was set up, the way he signed his extension last offseason, like if they didn't promote him to the head coach after Bill Belichick left, his contract became voided. He could have gone anywhere he wanted. So New England made the active decision to bring him on as the head coach, even after Bill Belichick left. I mean, if you don't want him to be the head coach, they easily could have washed their hands of it. I think he's going to be fine. I think it's going to be difficult to replace Bill Belichick, no matter who you had been as a human being.
They did name a GM. This says Pat Sullivan.
Yeah, he's been they named him. So I don't know when that was, but he's the GM of this football team.
Oh, I thought they were looking for one. I'll take back what I said. Okay, so if that's the case, the only thing they're missing is an offensive coordinator. And like we talked with Washington yesterday, it's just who the hell do you get? Right? Do you kick the tires again? And say Josh McDaniels, you will always have a home here in New England. Right? Josh McDaniels he ain't got a job.
Actually, I lied. He's not the GM. So
he's not
the GM is empty. I'm not sure where I got this stat from. So I'm just gonna delete him.
Okay, so back to my original point. You still need a GM. You still need an OC. I kind of despise teams that work backwards. Like you hired like Chicago did this. It's kind of hoping it's turning in the right direction, quote unquote. If you're Chicago, because you hired the head coach first, then you did the GM. You got the head coach first here. Now you're looking for the GM. That kind of doesn't always work out that way.
Well, I told you, as I mentioned earlier, yeah, they basically didn't have a choice. Like they basically had to make him
The head coach.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they had a choice. They just chose to do it that way. Like,
yeah, true.
My top three. How should I approach free agency and the draft? Well, free agency, hey, 70 mil. That's a lot of money, and it can go up. 70 mil, and like that's a lot of money. First off, you take care of the ones that's there. I keep Kyle Duggar. Like I know the pick. I know you hated that pick when it initially happened because like he got it from some no-name school and he was a second-round pick, and it's just like, dude, you don't get that guy in the second round.
But he went to Illinois Ryan, but he turned into a serviceable NFL player.
He turned into a really good guy, and that's when I started preaching the attitude like, hey, if that's your guy, go get your guy. Don't wait, don't hesitate. Who cares who feathers you ruffle? You saw something in this guy that you like, you snagged him, boom. I probably bring back Mike Gesicki at tight end.
Yeah, 1-year deal. I would also probably bring back Hunter Henry as well on a 1-year deal. I think you need to keep some of the weapons on your offense. Josh Uche was a good football player. I probably keep him as well.
And it's like as far as the rest of those guys go, hey, you keep Hunter Henry. I'd probably let Hunter Henry walk. I could probably draft a tight end.
Yeah, maybe
better than Hunter.
If you're not gonna take a quarterback at 3, I mean Brock Bowers is gonna be sitting there as one of the best prospects at the tight end position ever. So,
like no bullshit ever. And my top 3 priorities, obviously, replacing Bill Belichick in 2 aspects, not just the head coach, but as a GM. One might be easier than the other because let's not act like the GM picks have been necessarily great as of late.
Yeah, it's true.
As of late, and again, you also gotta look at it like this. You gotta look at Bill Belichick in 2 aspects. Bill Belichick with Tom Brady is the greatest coach ever, plain and simple. Bill Belichick without Tom Brady is 82-98. That's what he is, bro. Like that's his record without Tom Brady. 82-98. That's what it is. That's not ideal.
Yeah, it's not good. Not great. From the New England Patriots, let's swing into the New York Jets. Lost Aaron Rodgers after 4 snaps this season. Their draft capital, based on the fact that Aaron Rodgers only played those 4 snaps this season, they basically got to keep their first-round pick. So that's kudos to them, I guess. They got to keep the 10th overall pick.
He played real quick. He played 4 snaps and still got $37 million. Like,
yeah. There's their notable free agency: Carl Lawson, Dwayne Brown, Jordan Whitehead, Craig the Leg Zerline, Billy Turner, Bryce Huff, Chuck Clark, and Solomon Thomas. They have $7 million worth of cap space. Robert Saleh is the head coach. Joe Douglas is the GM. And Jaime Elhaya is the team president. How should the Jets approach free agency and the draft and their top 3 priorities? Obviously, the number 1 priority has to be to protect Aaron Rodgers. This is one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. Even when Aaron Rodgers was down, they had Zach Wilson whoever the quarterback was getting killed.
That's what I'm saying. We've been saying top priority for them is protect the quarterback for the last 4 seasons.
I mean, Mekhi Becton has not worked out at all at left tackle. I
think at 10. Sorry to cut you off. Number 10, whoever the top left tackle prospect is. Or second top.
Joe Alt should be still there. The kid from Georgia should still be there. His name is escaping me right now. But
Mekhi Becton, hey man, we tried it. It just ain't working, man.
And
it's
they're
not.
going to get Elijah Vera Tucker back, who could be their starting right tackle or right guard or left guard. Joe Tippmann was a good football player for this team, the rookie out of Wisconsin. I think he went and played for
Yeah, he went
them
to
a
Wisconsin.
majority of these snaps last year, played well for them. This offensive line just needs to be completely reworked. Number one priority by far. Number two, you cannot go into a season with Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, and Brett Rippon as the backup quarterbacks to Aaron Rodgers. You
Yeah, you
have to
can.
get somebody who's either A, young and has some upside, like a Spencer Rattler potentially, or three,
Ooh, I see what
or
you did.
you have to get a guy who has like a Joe Flacco, a veteran presence that can come in and keep the ship afloat if Aaron Rodgers misses any time next year. I actually really like the Spencer Rattler idea, and I think his showing at the Senior Bowl, he might be like a third-round pick now.
Yeah, I know. I know the ending of his career in Oklahoma didn't, or his Oklahoma career in general didn't go as most people saw it. Right, Spencer Rattler was this. This was a hot commodity coming out of high school, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot rocket for an arm, athletic as all get up, like
Like this was a dude that was Mr. Football and Mr. Basketball, and I think Arizona. Uh, could be, yeah, I think Arizona, and it was, hey, you going to Oklahoma, and he was supposed to be the next guy
the
of
next Baker
Oklahoma
Mayfield, the next
quarterback.
Kyler Murray. I mean, the next guy who's going to be that. I
Jalen
mean,
Hurts. Yes,
he gets
like they
benched
had.
for Caleb Williams, and man, thank God. Sometimes thank God for the transfer portal, right? Like he's able to transfer away from Oklahoma, get a fresh start at South Carolina, and really become a leader and mature up while he was there. And we're talking about him being a third-round pick. I don't want to make this whole show about Spencer Rattler, but I
No,
think
no, you're
his.
right though. But a scenario like this, going to a situation like, hey, you're not, you know for a fact, hey, as long as this guy is healthy, you're not gonna play. You're not gonna see the field, right? So we can learn you, we can shape you to our mold, we can work on mechanics that need working on, so on and so forth. Free agents with 7 mil, again, like you say, is you cut players, you move players, this, that, and the third. That's probably going to increase. I don't see any free agents on this list that I feel is worth keeping. Dwayne Brown is 40 years old.
Whitehead had that great game against Josh Allen, and then you never heard from him again.
Like I said, like Dwayne Brown's 40, and they pulled him off his couch.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like Carl Lawson, Solomon Thomas, like like I yeah, of the free agents that you have listed, I don't see a reason to keeping any of them. I really don't.
I agree with you on
Uh,
that. I think you release all your cap holes on all those guys. I think you build to the draft, and you have some cap space. Players are gonna want to come to the Jets to play with Aaron Rodgers and have an opportunity to win a ring. You'll get guys on the cheap, but yeah, I mean, yeah. So those are the third priority. I still think they need to figure out because they tried the pass catching like of the shelves, Alan Lazar, Randall Cobb, like those former Packers, like they didn't work out really with this team this season. And I
right.
think you need to have somebody who isn't Garrett Wilson catching all the passes for this team.
Okay. Again, like you built the team with the anticipation of Aaron Rodgers being there and having Alan Lazard, having Randall Cobb, um, having those guys there. Like they help with the comfortability of Aaron Rodgers because they know how he is, right? Like they know his mannerisms, they know how he can be. So they're pretty much there to bridge the contact between Aaron and Garrett Wilson, Aaron and basically everybody else who's never really been around him. I don't mind them bringing guys like that in because they know him. Again, you didn't count on Aaron Rodgers snapping his Achilles 4 plays into the new season either. So I don't mind Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. Well, more so Alan Lazard than Randall because Alan Lazard is younger. Um, I think one of my top 3 priorities is figuring, and it's oddly enough, figuring out Robert Salah. Like he's on the hot seat, fair or unfair. You good? You super
Yeah, I got
focused.
you. Sorry.
Like, I'm like, you're super focused. Like,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, you didn't expect to lose Aaron Rodgers so quickly, but some of the coaching decisions that Robert Saleh made during the season don't bode well for a guy who's sort of on the hot seat. Like the decision to have Tim Boyle start games in the general, like, was just not a good one. Like the Jets were not totally out of it. If they had won some games here and there, I mean, we're talking about them potentially as a wild card team, but like you put out Tim Boyle on the field and like he's not. It didn't like no reason whatsoever to put him on the field. Yeah, and like I think there are big time questions about his ability to be the head coach.
again, fair or unfair. It's. I also think like one of the outside of their O line health, it's like Brees Hall. Like if Brees Hall is healthy, this team is completely different. It's a completely different dynamic. I'm pretty sure he was fairly healthy last season for them.
Yeah, I think he played almost every game.
Just about right. Like, uh, man, if you're the Jets, it's I guess I overall one of the overall storylines is can we fucking stay healthy?
Yeah, he played in all 17 games this year. Still didn't have 1,000 yards rushing, which is kind of
Which
surprising
is
for me.
which is also like kind of like a credit to opposing teams' defense. Is like, hey, they probably gonna force feed this thing to Brees Hall. We're gonna like no, we eight in the
Yeah,
box.
yeah. I
Eight
mean,
in the box.
he had games where he had 12 yards rushing, and then he had other games where he had 178 yards rushing. So like, it was definitely a
Eight in the,
pretty
eight in the
wide
box.
variance. Yeah, pretty
Eight in the
wide
box.
variance when it comes to the Jets. But yeah, I mean, they got to figure out Robert Saleh if he is he the coach to take this team where they need to go, and I think you're going to learn that pretty early next season. Like Aaron Rodgers is going to tolerate bad coaching decisions.
No, he won't.
No.
He won't. And like I think yeah, we're in agreement of like top three priority. A QB successor. I know that didn't really bode well in Green Bay with him personally because he
I mean,
felt
I think he has to realize like, hey, I'm 40 years old.
40
Like
years old.
I only really have a couple years left in the tank, anyways. Like when they took Jordan Love, he clearly had still NFL left in him, and they're not going to take him in a first round. Like they're not taking a quarterback unless something absolutely absurd happens, and they take like the kid from Washington at 10, which
Oh,
I would
Michael
be.
Bennett.
Yeah, like I would be. And so I think that this conversation would be much different. And the Jets have no loyalty to Aaron Rodgers. I know they traded some assets to get him, but I mean, and he restructured some of his contract, but they don't really have the loyalty that Green Bay did to Aaron Rodgers. It
No,
doesn't exist.
they don't. And no, they don't.
Yeah.
Another storyline is a how they handle Aaron Rodgers, right? So I'm talking the organization, the media, all that. Because like in Green Bay, he was getting lofted softballs by Green Bay and Milwaukee media. He was able to basically trash talk Mike McCarthy, trash talk Matt LaFleur, trash talk um,
Anyone he wanted ever.
anyone he wanted. But basically, that shit is not finna fly in New York, bro. Like if you play bad, if you miss a throw, if you do this, you do that, New York media is gonna eat you alive. They not playing like they is not gonna be like, hey, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's a Hall of Famer. Like they don't give a damn.
It's true. Swinging from the New York Jets, let's talk about the Miami Dolphins going to the other side of the country, at least all the way down to the south. In South Beach, obviously their draft capital. They have the 21st overall pick in this year's draft. They got some notable names when it comes to free agents. Jerome Baker, linebacker, Connor Williams, Cedric Wilson, Christian Wilkins, Andrew Van Ginkel, Isaiah Wynn, Deshaun Elliott, Eli Apple, Robert Hunt, Braxton Berrios. They have negative $51 million in cap space. They're in the bottom 5 when it comes to cap space. Head coach Mike McDaniel, Chris Gear, GM, Tom Garfinkel is the team president. Dolphins, what should be their approach of the draft and what should be their top 3 priorities? I think one is very easy. You got to figure out this contract situation for Tua Tagovailoa. He's going into his 5th season this year. They can either sign him to some sort of extension this offseason, or they can wait till next offseason to do so. But I think you've seen what you need to see out of Tua Tagovailoa. I think, my personal opinion, I think it'd be foolish to let him not give him some sort of extension. Like
I pick up this. I pick up this 5th year
I think
option.
they've already done that. I'm pretty
Have
sure.
they done that? Did they do that already? Find that out real quick. But
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
go under the guys that they didn't. They got to pick up their 5th year option if they haven't already. I'm leaning towards you're right, and they
Yeah,
did.
they
They did.
picked up that fifth
Okay.
year option on his rookie back in March
Okay.
of last year. So he's going to be
So
guaranteed $23.2 million next season to play for the Miami Dolphins, but has nothing guaranteed after that. He will be a restricted free agent at the end of that contract, and so the
that
Dolphins will have the
okay,
ability to match any deal that he would get.
okay. So you play the season out. You bet on yourself. You go into this offseason saying, "Hey, we have you for at least this year. We're gonna work on getting you a new deal. Right? We're gonna work on getting you a new deal. But don't be surprised if we fucking it gets to this time next year and you don't have a new deal, and it talks about franchise tagging and all that other good stuff. And again, like you said, you're a restricted free agent. We can match any offer that you get. Obviously, your concern and my concern are different. Like your concern is Tua's contract. My concern is the cap space. You can't keep everybody. So you're gonna lose some valuable pieces. Like you might lose a Jerome Baker to free agency. You might lose a Christian Wilkins to free agency. And if I'm Chicago and Christian Wilkins is available, hey, what do you want? I, I will.
I think the big cap casualty could possibly be Teron Armstead, the guy they signed a bunch of money on a couple seasons ago. Has spent a lot of time injured at the left tackle position. He could be somebody they outright
Right
waive.
tackle.
So
Right tackle.
left tackle. He plays left tackle for the Dolphins.
Okay.
He played right tackle for the Saints. He plays left tackle for the Dolphins.
Okay. And Andrew Van Ginkel, nice dude. You might miss out. You might lose out on him. Isaiah Wynn was a castaway in New England. Who knows?
He ended the season on the IR anyways. So does Connor Williams. Neither of those guys were especially good this season anyways. And they have Leland Eichenberg, the center out of Notre Dame, I want to say they drafted 2 years ago, who's now their starting center.
And you got guys like Eli Apple, who's a dime a dozen, not special. Like
Eli Apple is the corner that gets signed after the corner you want to play gets injured. like
facts. So how do they approach free agency? Well, you gotta get money to address free agents, right? You gotta have cap space to do all of that. This is a team that might be rebuilding through the draft for quite some time, right?
They also don't have that much draft capital. Like they traded away a fourth, I think, for Bradley Chubb. But you also got to think about like this team was just banged up towards the end of the season. Like if they all stay healthy, I mean, who knows what the ceiling of this Miami Dolphins team could have been. I think Mike McDaniel needs to kind of reevaluate some of his coaching decisions as well. And I think, we'll see how that ends up working out. And I think Devin Echan is probably going to become the featured back of this team next year.
Yeah,
and I think potentially Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr., who are fine players, neither of those guys will probably be back next year either.
I'm keeping Raheem Mostert. I got to keep him. There's just certain things you don't teach, and he's one of them.
Yeah, he's got. They have 3 of the fastest players in the NFL on their team right now,
and
Raheem Mostert's one of them.
Right, and what's crazy is we marvel at the speed of the Miami Dolphins. Right, it's Tyreek Hill, it's Jalen Waddle, it's Devon Achane, it's Raheem Mostert. You have 4 of the top 10 fastest dudes in the league, and you got sent home. Right, like it's all like that speed and shit is cute when you putting up 70 on the Denver Broncos, but where was that speed the week after when you was getting popped in your mouth by the Buffalo Bills and you got dubbed? You damn near gave up 50 points to them, right? Like that speed and shit is cute, but it hasn't equated to anything of significance other than hey, we're the fastest team in the league. Congratulations.
And this is a team that really struggled down the stretch, loses of 3 of the last 5 games. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously they did win the games, the cookie cutter games, like the cupcake games that they were supposed to win. They won, but when they went up against a team that had any kind of semblance of like a roster,
That's a
they got
match.
beat
Yeah, they got
down.
beat
Like
down.
they got beat to Buffalo, they got beat by Kansas City, they got beat by Philadelphia, they lost to Tennessee on just a wild game on Thursday night or Monday night. And then they lost to Baltimore. They lost to Buffalo again. Their only quality win was against Dallas in a game that Mike McCarthy basically hand fed them that game. But yeah, I think you got to make a decision on Tua, and you got to make a decision on this cap space, and you got to figure out what players on this roster are going to be worth keeping around to move forward in the future. And you got to make these decisions quickly. I don't really know what their third priority should be, but 1, 2 cap space in some order.
Yeah, 100%. Agreed.
To the final team in the AFC East, we got the Buffalo Bills on the clock. They lose again in the divisional round, this time to the Kansas City Chiefs. They have the 28th overall pick in this year's draft. Is that number wrong? No, I got it. 28th pick wrong in this year's draft. Their main needs are wide receiver, cornerback, defensive line, edge, still the offensive tackle, safety, as Micah Hyde is a free agent. And talk about their notable free agents: Daquan Jones, Leonard Floyd, Jordan Phillips, Dane Jackson, I missed the E there, Taylor Rapp, AJ Epinesa, Shaq Lawson, Gabe Davis, and David Edwards, who's a left guard for this team. They have negative $51 million in cap space. They're in the bottom 5 when it comes to cap space. Sean McDermott is still the head coach of this team. Brandon Beane is the GM. Kim Pugula is the team president. How should this team approach free agency and the draft and their top 3 priorities? I think me personally, I think that one of their main priorities should be, what are they going to do with Von Miller? He's become an off the field distraction, and he hasn't been productive since they signed him to that massive contract. I think this could be the offseason where they decide Von Miller's a Hall of Fame player. He just isn't worth keeping on this team.
I think they do some kind of contract restructuring if it's possible, because of the cap space. Yeah, don't you hate those kind of typos? It's like, I know your name, right? I just missed it. I think they do some kind of contract restructuring with him if it's possible. It's you can't keep running this thing back and losing to the same people over and over again, right? If you're not losing to Kansas City, it's 1 loss to Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, 2 of which were at home, right? You lost to Cincinnati at home in the snow, and you just lost to Kansas City at home. Like this was supposed to be the year that you knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs. This was supposed to be the year that Josh Allen put his name ahead of certain guys that people want to put ahead of him. Right? This was supposed to be that. Like you said it pretty much like since the second playoff game against Kansas City. Like, hey man, if we ever get them at home, we gonna beat them. Bills Mafia gonna take over. Da 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 da. Okay, you had them at home. And by hook, by crook, however you feel about it, you didn't beat them. Right? Stephon Diggs dropping passes that he catches in his sleep. The kicker shanking a field goal that should have been made again in his sleep.
Wide right
is probably the 2 most like.
And the crazy thing, Tyler Bass is a pretty good kicker. Like he's been pretty efficient as a kicker of this Buffalo Bills team since he came to the NFL. It's just unfortunate. And I also think it's great that like fans of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills have kind of rallied around Tyler Bass, donating a lot of money to his cat foundation, basically to help shelter animals. So I think that's one of the nice things about like the National Football League. Sometimes they come together and they just kind of unite for good here.
Yeah.
But I think that you just kind of touched on it right there. I think the Stephon Diggs conversation, like, is he still worth keeping
What
on
is
this team? Because where there's smoke, there's usually fire, and the Buffalo Bills try to keep a lot of that stuff under wraps, and like they're like, oh, this isn't actually going on. But the broader reporting about Stephon Diggs is not particularly positive when it comes to stuff coming out
no,
from his Buffalo. So
and
and
and Trevon
and his usage rate just dropped, like, just plummeted in the second half of the season when Buffalo went on their run to kind of like make it into the playoffs. Stephon Diggs had his lowest wide receiving numbers totals period during that stretch. When the Buffalo Bills were most effective this season, it did not involve Stephon Diggs
and
as a primary option.
that's kind of been like that's kind of been like the knock against Stephon Diggs. Like, do you want 5 catches? You want 5 catches for 60 yards and a win? Or do you want your 10 to 12 catches for 130, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and y'all lose? Like, it's like, what do you want? What do you want, Stephon Diggs? Do you want to win or do you want to lose? Because everybody said they want to win till it's, hey, I'm not getting my numbers. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting that. But you said you wanted to win, so you should be cool with just winning, right? So, like, Stephon Diggs, like, he's the perfect, I want my cake and I want to eat it too. I want to win, but I want to be the reason why we win. That's also, that's not going to be the case most of the time, right? It's just not going to happen. I think Micah Hyde, I think he stays. I think Gabe Davis is out. I think Taylor Rapp stays.
I'm not so sure about Taylor Rapp. I think you can maybe bring him back on like a lesser number. I don't think he'll be back.
I think if you make a decision about Von Miller, you can't let Leonard Floyd walk out that door.
No,
One of those
100%.
two dudes got to stay.
Well, I think this is another. We talked about it previous, and this is a team that actually has a lot of draft capital. Like they don't, like, they have all of their first 4 picks. They have 2 picks in the 5th round. They got 3 in the 6th. Like, you can realistically, if you draft well, draft players that can put some pressure on the quarterback. You can draft players that can, be offensive tackles and all, or interior offensive linemen for this Buffalo Bills team, because this is still an offensive line that really struggled this season. Like, Josh Allen had to go into the phone booth, it seemed like every week, every game.
Well, yeah, they made a mid-season change at offensive coordinator.
Fired Ken Dorsey, brought in Joe Barry, or not,
just wasn't
Joe Brady.
Yeah, it just wasn't working with Ken Dorsey, and it came to a head, and it's like, hey, this guy has to go. Like, it's what he's saying, what he's selling. We're not buying what he's selling. It's falling on deaf ears. It's not working no more. But the bigger thing is, you cannot keep running this. Like, Buffalo and Josh Allen are no longer defined by what they do in the regular season. We know you can get to the playoffs. We know you can win anywhere from 10 to 13 games. We know you can do it. What you do in the postseason from this moment on to the minute you retire is what's important. And if you're just getting to the playoffs and you're constantly losing to Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow got one on you. We have yet to see you versus Lamar, you versus Justin Herbert. Bro, like, do you want to be this year?
I don't think Justin Herbert's in the same tier as the 4 guys you mentioned earlier, but
like, we don't know. You got to.
But you're about to make a really interesting comparison. Like, do you want to become this generation's Philip Rivers?
Philip Rivers. Do you want to be
like a guy who has all the accolades in the world? He just doesn't have the playoff success because he went up against Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning his entire career.
Like, do you and
like people just want to discredit Philip Rivers, like, his Hall of Fame credentials, because he didn't win anything. Like, a lot of people didn't win anything with the Southern 3 quarterbacks in the AFC all at the same time. Like
yeah, it sucks. It really does. And if you're Josh Allen, like, and again, Philip Rivers, did he beat those guys on occasion? Yeah.
Yeah, he typically had Peyton Manning's number, but anytime he went up against Tom Brady, it was just over.
Yeah,
But
it's like it's like you climb Kilimanjaro, and it's like, all right, now it's time to climb Everest, and you just usually
yeah,
one like Peyton Manning in this instance is Kilimanjaro. Like you said, he charges Colts. He usually got the better of Peyton Manning in those matchups. Chargers Patriots, and
yeah,
not so much.
yeah, for sure.
So if you're Josh Allen and if you're the Buffalo Bills and if you're GM Brandon Bean, you got a this is what you do. You get Sean McDermott and Sean, you on the hot seat. I'm just letting it be known, bruh. We keep
I mean,
running to
if you don't get out of the divisional round, I think
bro. Like that's what I'm saying. Like
it's gonna be
we keep running
papers.
into we keep running into the same hurdle, and we can't keep. Like not only are we losing to the same guy, you're getting severely out coached by this guy. Especially like especially this one. That shootout in the what was that the divisional? That's the one where it's like, hey, tit for tat. Whoever got the ball last was gonna win. They changed the rule because of y'all. They changed, and that was the game where it's like, hey, Josh Allen got next. He gonna be MVP. He gonna be this. He gonna be that. And you lose to Joe Burrow in the divisional or the wild card. I can't remember which one. You lost.
It was in divisional. It was in divisional.
You lost and then you lose in the divisional again. We can't keep losing. We can't keep losing in the divisional. We can't have one AFC. Like we can't have one AFC championship appearance on our resume and want to be in the conversation with the Pantheons. Can't do it. So if I'm Brandon being like, hey Sean, you on the hot seat. It's gonna be some serious furniture moving personnel wise. We already got a new OC. Don't expect this roster to look the same because we can't keep running this back. It's like ramming your head against a brick wall and expecting a different outcome. It's like, damn, I ran into the brick wall 10 times. The 11th time it's not gonna hurt and I'm gonna run through it. No.
It's not the way it works.
That's the way it hurts.
But yeah, that's been our 2024 NFL offseason preview for the AFC East. Thank you very much for checking us out here at Prime Sports World. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. My name is David Huffman. Right there is my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. The TJ, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat, and I am exhausted because I have some car stuff to do today, and you know what? I ain't got no money right now, but my rent paid, my car fixed.
There you go. That's all that matters.
That's adulting.
Amen, my friend. I'll talk to you later, man. You have a good night, all right?
See you, man.
Peace, brother.